Nassau Hockey Podcast, brought to you by the Hockey Writers.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Nassau Hockey Podcast, brought to you by the Hockey Writers Podcasting Network. I am James Nichols, and as always, I'm here with my good buddy John Zella. What's up, pal?
Not a whole lot. I'm very happy to be talking about actual games this week.
Yeah.
And then more games later this week. And for the next number of months, we get to do that. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, definitely. But before we get into today's episode, I just want to talk about our good buddies over at Bar Down Breakdown Podcast. Islander fans, listen, we know you like your music, and there's no better way to stay connected with hockey and music other than Bar Down Breakdown. Check out their 100th episode featuring Derek from State Champs on January 27th. Guys, you're not going to want to miss this. They do a really good job of incorporating Islanders hockey with music. A lot of guys from Long Island come on the show. A lot of musicians from Long Island come on the show. But, you know, they've also had guys from like Every Time I Die and stuff like that. So who did they? I think they did. Yeah.
They are big hockey guys.
Yeah.
Big Buffalo fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's super cool. State Champs are from Albany. If you don't know who they are, definitely check them out. Some great pop punk. I know a lot of people have played with them before and gone on tour, and super great dudes, and they're pretty talented if you're into that.
Yeah. So check out our buddies Bar Down Breakdown for their 100th episode on January 27th. You guys aren't going to want to miss that. Really cool stuff. But let's get into around the NHL. There's a lot of things going on now. Let's start with the opening games. Things have been going somewhat smooth, but there's a lot of movement going on right now regarding the waiver wire, regarding how these players are going to fit into the taxi squad, or are they on the taxi squad? Are they off the taxi squad? And somebody raised a good question today too, going slightly off script here, about what's the point of the taxi squad? Because yes, there are extra guys, but they're practicing together.
I think it's if certain guys kind of go down, or like they have COVID or something like that, or anything like that. I don't know how separate they are off the ice, and that might be the difference.
Well, off the ice maybe, but that might be the difference. But if they're on the ice, then
I think it's like exposure length. It's not like you're standing next to somebody for 10 minutes. When you're on the ice, it's kind of all in passing. I know it's like sweat and spit, like it's all kind of like anyone that's played hockey or have watched a game where they take a shot at the bench for 1 second, it's kind of gross. When you're playing, you don't really think about it, but then when you watch or something or think about it for a second, it's disgusting. But I think it's just extra guys, and I think part of it too is so that you can have extra guys. Honestly, it's mostly like I think more so than simply a coronavirus related, like pandemic related. It's just going to be really hard to get bodies from the AHL teams up to your team. Yeah. So if you already have them there and a player goes down with a whatever injury, or you just want to swap guys, it cuts out a lot of that extra, additional exposure from guys coming from Bridgeport to they need to catch up and they're in Pittsburgh, or where I had to think about if Pittsburgh was in this division. They got to go to Buffalo, they got to go to Pittsburgh or whatever. Yeah, they're right there, and they don't have they have guys that they can kind of count on for that. Probably I don't know that it helps directly COVID related, but the bigger picture, it makes more sense.
That part totally makes sense to me. I get that, but they're still skating with the rest of the team.
Yeah, but that's not like I said, that's not the point of this particular thing. I think it's mainly so you're not bringing extra guys in. You kind of create your own. Here are 26 guys that are on your team. They're not going anywhere. You can keep track of that. But if you have guys going back and forth to Bridgeport, or in this case, where are they? Because they're not necessarily like teams just started on Monday, AHL teams, which is 2 days ago. So, and and it was funny. So I'm on the board of a local hockey rink, and the Syracuse Crunch are practicing there. So I saw
Oh,
a
wow.
tweet come up. I was like, I know that rink. That is not the War Memorial. Where are they practicing? And it's like right down the block from me, which is kind of cool. So that's where like Alex Tuck played and a lot of these guys
Sure.
grew up in, which is kind of cool. But anyway, I think it's, Tampa Bay can't have guys from Syracuse going down to Florida. They're getting on some kind of plane. It's not cost effective. I think that's where the taxi squad mainly comes in, and not necessarily keeping anybody's exposure level within the 26 guys down. I mean, it can happen. I think there have been comments. I've seen some players like some of these guys' kids are still going to school. Some of them are their significant others or partners are working. It's almost bound to happen. And there's a game canceled tonight. The Predators Hurricanes game was canceled. I think there was an exposure, maybe a false negative, so a false positive rather. So it is possible, but you don't want to multiply the chances of that happening, and that's there. It's just kind of lowering the risk. It's going to happen, but if you don't have to amplify it, they're not going to. So that's probably what it is.
Yeah. Well, in reference to the hot commodities on the waiver wire, goaltenders are definitely a hot commodity. And 2 goaltenders alone are actually going to the New Jersey Devils. The Devils claimed both Aaron Dell and Eric Comrie off of waivers. They're trying to solidify their net after Corey Crawford unexpectedly retired. So those are pretty good moves by the Devils, in my opinion. I think that Dell's a serviceable backup, and Comrie is still kind of young. Has to find a way to break out in this league, but they have a little bit of depth there now, so it's definitely a good move by them.
I don't know what I mean, unless they didn't have a third goal. I mean, they had Scott Wedgwood, so I don't know where now they have 4 goalies, unless now because Wedgwood came up, they can try to sneak one of those guys down to the AHL. But I didn't look at their cap friendly or anything, so I don't know what they're doing with all these goaltenders. I don't know that having 4 on your roster or taxi squad is necessarily a good idea.
Yeah.
But maybe it's a trade ship. I don't know. They are up 3-1 on the Rangers right now. On the back of Jack Hughes, who's having a good start to the season.
Really good start to the season.
2 goals, 3 helpers in 3 games for Hughes.
Yeah.
That's excellent. The Devils look much better, and considering that's their next opponent, this is a game that Islander fans, I'm expecting maybe you're watching this. It is hockey, so if you're still in that kind of watching every single hockey game mode, it's probably a good one to watch in the division.
Yeah.
But someone that maybe last year that the Islanders didn't have to pay too much attention to, as get his feet wet in the NHL. He's going to get the ability to play these teams so many times. He's going to get to know them.
Yeah.
They'll get to know him too, but he's only going to get more comfortable.
Yeah.
He's a top pick for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, scary to think. Islanders have a few days to rest. We'll get to that later, and good for him though. Happy to see it.
Yeah, it's nice to see after there was some question around Jack Hughes last year, and that kind of thing. You have to wait on those. He was a first overall pick. It's also his first year in the league, so you have to wait it out and see how it works out. He put on, I think, 14 pounds of muscle in the offseason, so that helps.
Wow, this goal is really nice too. I'm watching. I just saw the replay.
He's
just such a smooth, that's just a pro move.
His player comparison when he got drafted was Patrick Kane, so he's bound to have success in this league, and he's already put in the work to get there. He had 50 points last year still, which is pretty good
that's
for a rookie season.
In what? It depends. I don't know how many games the Devils played. Like a max of 71 games. That's not bad for a rookie.
Not bad at all. So I think the Devils are a bit underrated. Miles Wood is another name that I like on that team. He's actually having a good year so far this year as well.
Good power play guy, right?
Yeah, very good power play guy. He's strong. He's Anders Lee-esque, maybe a little smoother with his hands, but he knows how to score, and he's very strong, on his skates. So he's very good. And Mackenzie Blackwood, he was the best goaltender in the second half of the season last year. So they have good roots there, and they're without Nico Hischier right now. So young up and coming Devils team. They're going to be
Yeah,
not easy to
they'll
beat.
get there.
Yeah.
I mean, Mackenzie Blackwood is still very good, and he's young.
Yeah, he's
So
great.
I think, again, as you say, start from the net out. They have a couple really good pieces up front.
Yeah.
Maybe they get another high draft pick. Maybe they can offload some guys here and there, or maybe get something for a Subban this year, although he's really expensive, and I think he has a couple of years left or something. But I think they can make some moves. I think they can take advantage maybe of some teams' cap situations, and I want them to be good because I love that tri-state. I want that rivalry to be good between all these teams.
Yeah, that would be
we don't
cool.
necessarily need this division or conference to get better, but it's nice to see when they're doing well. They were, when the Islanders all those years were not making the playoffs, or were just getting smoked in the first round. I was a Devils fan. I liked watching them. They were good.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to watch the Rangers. I wasn't going to be that much of a traitor. The Devils felt really safe. And, thinking back, this is, 15 years ago or even 10 years ago, the access wasn't the same to a lot of this stuff. So the Devils were just on TV.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, if they weren't on OLN or something, whatever that was, however many years ago, it was nice because they were just on MSG. You can just kind of turn them on and watch. So, it's always nice to see them do well.
For sure. Speaking of some trade speculation, I know that we talked about the Devils possibly offsetting some assets and getting higher picks and stuff. There was a Keith Yandel dilemma going on here, and there was speculation: is he maybe on the move? Trades are a little harder this year to do because if any player gets traded from one team to another, they're required to go through this quarantine period. I don't know if it's required if they're in division trades, but definitely out of division trades at least. So it's definitely going to be harder to do this year. But his Ironman streak was in jeopardy because there was the possibility that he wasn't going to dress for the opening night that the Florida Panthers had at home. So
their delayed opening night.
Yeah, their delayed opening night. Wound up that he did dress anyway, and he had a very nice goal in that game. I think he added on an assist as well.
I think he had an assist. He's had an assist in the game currently, like at Tuesday as we record, and a goal the other night. Or did he also have an assist the other night too?
I think he had 2 points the other night. Yeah, and he was super pumped to score that goal. I mean, it was like
the boys were pumped on the bench.
Yeah,
I loved that.
It's funny because you expect a veteran like that to keep his composure, but he was pumped. But something of interest, some rumors floating around about a deal with the Islanders, according to Elliot Friedman. It's just a rumor, nothing set in stone, nothing solidified.
Well, it kind of been quieted too. So he'd mentioned it, and it's gone now. Like whatever was going on, it's kind of subsided.
It's likely not going to happen, and I don't really see a fit for him anyway. I do know we lost Devin Taves, but the whole reason that we lost him was because we couldn't afford his $4 million average annual value, and Keith Yandel's going to come in at 6 or 7. I know it's only 2 years, but cap's not going up, so it's going to be too difficult of a maneuver to get that done, unless for some reason the Florida Panthers decided to take Andrew Ladd back the other way. But I highly doubt that happens. So I would not get too excited about that.
No, and I don't. The Islander, and we're going to get to a little bit of that. I know we. If you subscribe to our Patreon, I think we talked about it last week. We've definitely said some things on Twitter, but I don't think they need a guy like that. No, frankly. No. But we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we'll get to it later. Jacob Voracek had a very interesting post game the other night. In some explicit comments to a reporter from the Philly Inquirer. Mike Selesky had asked Jacob Voracek a question about, no fans in the stands. And I'm not going to say what he said on air. But what I will say is that he did not have anything nice to say to Mike Selesky at all. This stemmed from an issue that happened a couple years ago, actually. I think it was like 2 seasons ago. Mike Selesky wrote something about Jacob Voracek maybe not playing very well or something like that.
Well, I have it up in case we want to read it.
Oh yeah, go
Just
ahead,
because
do it.
Voracek is an offensive genius, a free spirit who channels his energy and creativity into scoring and setting up goals. But he considers diligence in the defensive zone outside the scope of his role and above his pay grade. A rich attitude for a player who is scheduled to earn $8.25 million annually for the next 5 years.
Oh boy.
That is not great. And then there's a bunch of tweets of trade this guy for that guy, Voracek for this guy. If Giroux and Voracek are still the team's best players 2 years from now, this was in 2019, June 2019. So like a hop, skip, and a jump ago.
Yeah.
If Giroux and Voracek are still the team's best 2 players in 2 years from now, this franchise will be in utter despair. That's dramatic.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't bring that and be like, well, are they in trouble now? Because I think every team's kind of sputtering and doing their own kind of version of will they, won't they be good? Everyone's unless they are just very good. So I don't know that seems dramatic for a team that, pushed the Islanders to 7 games.
Right.
Got through the first round pretty, against
they're going to be
the
fun.
Canadians. I don't know. Good goaltending. I think Giroux and Voracek have still plenty in the tank.
Yeah.
They still have, they have a
they
Joel
got good
Farabee.
guys
they
like
have,
right.
Provorov.
Sean Couturier.
Although Couturier is definitely cannot be as young as I think he is anymore. He's been in the league forever.
He came in at 18 years old, so he's probably
I don't know.
He's probably approaching 30.
Sure. He just seems so like he's just been around forever. I can just see that gap, that giant gap. I think he's missing 4 front teeth.
He's missing quite a bit. But yeah, so he obviously, and the thing is that stemmed from 2 years ago. So he was holding on to that bit of whatever you want to call it, to spew out to Mike Zalisky. And Voracek had stated, I think that somebody tweeted at him on Twitter, like, this was 2 years ago. Like, why are you bringing it back up now? And he was like, you don't understand. Like, I haven't had context with him since. So I haven't been able to say anything to him. And that was my opportunity. And Travis Konechny's face was priceless after
Dude,
those
he was
comments.
Trying to hold it back.
Oh my God. He was shocked. He had no idea. Yeah, it was hilarious. I mean, that's my worst nightmare. If I'm ever interviewing a player, I would probably die on the spot.
Well, your first thing is don't piss them off.
Right.
That's gonna be, although, and I think Elliot Friedman said, he commented on this too on the podcast. You're gonna be honest. Now, I think what that guy did was shitty. Yeah. I don't know that you're right that. I mean, Staples been hard on the team. He's not always. I know a lot of Islander fans, or a good amount of Islander fans anyway, think he just he wants to blow smoke to keep his creds or something. Staples been hard on the team.
I've seen it.
I think he's trying to be realistic, as much as possible.
Yeah,
he is someone I think that tries to stay objective, which I try to do the same thing. I try to be as honest. Well. I have some honest opinions later on when we actually discuss the Islanders. But don't piss them off.
Sure.
Don't go out of your way. It's one thing to be like, their contracts are going to be an issue. You should trade him while he's an asset versus he's a dumpster fire.
Yep.
Get him out of here.
Yep.
Like, or, if they're still on the team, they're in trouble. Like that's not any way to build a relationship. And that it's marketing, PR, reporting. You got to maintain that stuff. So that's a real dumb move. However, to Voracek's credit, I really do love that he did that. Not just because it was entertaining, but it showed that there's a little bit more to hockey players. I mean, I think we all know that there is more to players, or that there's a little bit more to players than what we see.
Right.
But it was this non-robotic kind of response where he didn't even just ignore the question or,
no, he went right at
answer. Like, Mike Richards did that a couple years ago. I don't know if it was with this guy or something else, but when he was with the Flyers, he kind of gave those one-word answers and tried to annoy, for a month. I forget what. Yeah. I don't even know what happened.
He didn't want to give anybody a reason to write something.
Right, even that, or he was the captain, so it's like
Yeah.
whatever the case is. When you're a star of the team, you got to be prepared for that. But I think I love that he just showed personality. There aren't very many guys that are outspoken. I wouldn't consider Voracek outspoken at this point, although seeing some stuff on Twitter, it's he definitely snaps back sometimes, which is, again, I like that. I mean, I don't. The NBA, I think, is a little bit too of a circus sometimes, but at least it's interesting. It's entertaining.
Yeah.
There's stuff going on. There's not made up narratives. In the NHL, they're making up narratives like Ovechkin and Crosby hate each other, and they have a poster, and Crosby has Ovechkin's poster on a washing machine in his basement. He shoots pucks at. Like, no, they don't. I don't know that they think about each other all that much. You got to chill out. But some of that drama, just like, it isn't there so much. It's got to be manufactured a little bit. Whereas in the NBA, it's maybe it's manufactured a little bit, but it's still a little more exciting.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just like that he did it. It was something hockey related that wasn't just, did he score? Are they good? So that's what I want to say about that. I just like that it was fun.
Moving on. So the AHL is actually getting their season underway soon. They hit the ice on Monday for their training camp, so that's good news to hear on the AHL front. You'll probably see some guys start moving around a little bit now down to the AHL level. You might hear a few more transactions come through, but let's move on to On the Island, because we have another transaction to talk about that I feel like there's been so many occasions where I've sat here and I'm like, we're not going to talk about this ever again. It's pretty much done. We don't ever have to speak about Mr. Josh Hosang anymore. Well, once again, we have a new narrative to talk about. Josh Hosang moves over to Sweden on loan. He's actually with Orbero, where Robin Salo plays, who I always claim that we don't talk enough about, because we quite frankly don't talk enough about. Interesting side note, by the way, in a Q&A with Arthur Staple today, Staple did indicate that he believes that the team will be signing him to his entry-level contract after this season. So it sounds like there's been a little bit of rumbling there.
When you're playing well, and especially with you got Bolduc, you got Salo. If Leddy, I think Leddy is still a serious asset on this team, but he's got 2 years left, or this season, another season. Something like that. And, watching him play the last few nights, you definitely see why the team's keeping him around. I know the number isn't great, and that's an obvious thing to look at about, does he get scooped up in the expansion draft? But the way that he moves the puck, his speed, defensive awareness, they need a vet on that back end. I know that Pelech and Pulak have been around for a while now. Mayfield's been around for a while now, and obviously they have Andy Green, but like, Leddy's just kind of been there and done it. He's as steady as she goes. They need that.
Yeah.
And I just, especially without Taves, and without Dobson stepping up fully, I wouldn't want more guys to kind of come in and let it go until Dobson can then step up and play with ideally a left-hand shot on that second pair. I don't know if that means Mayfield comes down to the third pair. But yeah, a little off track there. But yeah, I think it's good that Sal's going to get that contract. I wonder when him and maybe Bolduc finally do get into the mix a little more seriously. When Hickey's off the books and things like that. I mean, I could be interesting.
I think Bolduc is going to be an Islander as soon as next season. He almost made the squad this year, maybe just because it was, for taxi squad purposes, but he certainly turned a lot of heads. So, a core of, Bolduc, Wild, who also really impressed at camp this past couple weeks ago. He got John Carlson type raves from Mr. Barry Trotz, which is nothing to take lightly. And Robin Salo, that's a pretty good young core of defensemen to add to Noah Dobson and Ryan Pulak and Adam Pelech. So the blue line looks to be in good shape. The only thing I I don't know if this crossed anybody else's mind. I don't know if this crossed your mind when the loan happened. I just hope that he doesn't go over to Sweden and start talking, meaning Hosang, start talking to Salo about how much he hates being an Islander. That's one thing that I hope does not happen.
I don't think that's in anyone's best interest. Like I don't think
Maybe,
it's in
hopefully.
Hosang's interest either, because it'll get out. I think he knows better at this point. He kind of just wants his tenure to end. He's doing this for that reason. I'm really happy for him. I want him to go skate. I think this just kind of gets. I'll forever just be confused by the whole thing.
Yeah,
I don't know how many years needed to go by where it was like, okay, clean slate, and then little things. I mean, I just don't get it. I feel like much worse stuff happens to other players, and he's just getting the raw end of it. I'm not, and I think it pisses me off. Frankly, I see on Twitter a lot. Maybe I just look at Twitter too much. That's probably the case. But I see a lot of like, you Josh Hosang truthers, or whatever they're friggin' calling people. I don't. He's a good player.
He is.
And he was a 2014 draft pick. Had they just kind of developed him a little bit better,
yeah.
By now, it's 6-7 years later. He's gonna, he should be. There's no reason why he shouldn't be where other players are.
No, I agree. I 100% agree. I do hope that he goes over there, showcases his talents, and has another shot at the NHL next year. It's not going to be with the Islanders, although I've said that
we keep saying that
times. I know. I've said that 1,000 times. I hope he does showcase his talents. I hope he does get another chance somewhere in the NHL. He could be a 50, 60-point player for a decent team. I don't
get 40 out of 60 points against the Islanders in a season somehow. He's gonna just absolutely light them up, and I've said that for a while. But as soon as he gets his chance, it's like, I don't want to say it's like a Duclair situation.
Well, I don't understand why a team like Ottawa or Detroit don't take a flyer on him. Yeah,
it makes me think there's something else. At the same time, I mean, he was on waivers. You can get him for
free.
nothing.
I know. I don't know. I can't talk about Josh Hosang anymore because it's just there's never going to be any answers. There might not even be answers once he's gone. We'll never know, in my opinion. So I can't talk about him anymore. There's just nothing to say except for the fact that he's in Sweden now. He's with Orbero, and we'll see what happens. And I'm closing the book on Josh Hosang until something real happens where he either cracks an NHL lineup or signs with another team. So we're closing the Josh Hosang book. That is all said and done. Let's talk about the first 3 games of the season. 2 games against the New York Rangers, 1 game against the Boston Bruins. The 2 games against the New York Rangers were, in your words, a tale of 2 tapes. And something I completely agree with. They came out game 1, and I wrote an article on this. I was like, same old Islanders. Awesome.
In the best way.
In the best way. All positives, 4 goals, suffocating defense. The Rangers could not generate 1 shot from the inside of any Islander defender. They, nothing was it was minimal high danger chances. The defense played outstanding. The offense found ways to score, and Semyon Varlamov shut the door. A outstanding performance from him. He wasn't tested often, but when he was just great. Then comes game 2, and it's a flip of the script.
It was a Freaky Friday situation where they
extremely
the Islanders looked as bad, and I want to give the Islanders credit for game 1, but
sure.
The Rangers were bad, but then the Islanders just took that to a completely different level.
Yeah,
of bad in their 5-0 loss.
Yeah,
and it was hard to watch. It was a little bit of what you saw in the Boston game too.
Right.
It was a lot of forcing pucks. I think even Trotz, whether it was, I think it was last night's post game. You can't force pucks through 3 or 4 guys every time. You want to try a pass like that? Sure, that's fine. But even those short passes, I couldn't believe there was a play. Was it Beauvillier over the line, going in the offensive zone? It was a 3-on-2. if they hurried. And a 10-foot pass couldn't connect. No one was on the trailer
Right.
going wide.
They
Couldn't make that
didn't-
pass, and that was over. That was in the Ranger game. So whether it was a turnover or just they couldn't string two passes together.
Well, let's talk about how the game started. Scratch that. Let's talk about how the game was supposed to start. It didn't even start before the Islanders were already down. Cal Clutterbuck in warmups takes a shot in warmups, and it goes too high.
Which they teach you in the as soon as you can lift the puck off the
Right.
ice, get the
Shoot
goalie
low.
going. And it's like
In
this isn't beer
warm-ups-
league, right? You're like
Right.
guys are cranking slap shots from
Right.
the dots, and you're like, you're gonna kill this guy.
Right. You're
So
in
yeah, at every
warm-ups,
level.
shoot low. And Clutterbuck got one too high. It hit Varlamov in the, I think they said jaw. Caught him too high, and he had said, in a post-game interview after the Bruins game, which we'll get to, I felt dizzy. I didn't feel right. And, automatically it rushed Sorokin's NHL debut, which wasn't ideal. These players are creatures of habit, so I'm giving Sorokin a pass for that game. Well, nothing he could have done. He didn't know this was going to happen. And listen, I know, some might say a serviceable backup should be prepared for anything. In regular circumstances, yes, but he hadn't played since March. It was his first game in the NHL ever. He found out 10 minutes before he was starting that he was starting. These guys are mental midgets. They do, pregame routines, and they have certain, routines that they go through every start that they have in net. Players too. They all have these regiments that they go through. So he had zero preparation. He was not prepared at all to be in net. And he was hung out to dry for most of that game.
I think at 3 of 5 goals, yes. I think that the team kind of deflated in front of them. They had a lot of high danger chances.
Yeah.
A lot of odd man rushes. A lot of guys kind of crashed in the net. The Islanders just weren't prepared. I mean, forget about so Sorokin's in. They'd never played in front of him before. Maybe they don't know how comfortable to be, so they weren't. But then you kind of watch the Boston game, and even though Varlamov continued to play really well, the Islanders were playing. I don't know what was going on. It was like a magnet on their stick, but it was repelling the puck instead. You just couldn't do it. With Velcro, couldn't have helped them. But 2 of those goals, I mean, to your point, first NHL game. I think there was a few people talking about this on Twitter, maybe even during the game. I can't remember if we're in the chat with Joe or it's on Twitter anymore. So like who's saying what, but the angles were a little off. I know international ice is a little wider. It's more of an East-West game. So having, where Buchnevich maybe shot that puck from, I think Mike McKenna, who he has a great podcast and former AHL journeyman. And he's like, no one's scoring from there. That's like a 1% of the time somebody's scoring from there all season. You almost never have to worry about that.
Listen,
and he just, but to what I think you're going to say, he was in the paint. He wasn't. You watched Varlamov. There was one shot in particular last night where the Rangers, they got in position where they were going to shoot, and you saw Varlamov come out a few feet. Like it just immediately, the Bruins, whatever. You saw him come out of the net.
Yeah.
Like there was an immediate like, all right, he's going to shoot. He's not going to pass. I'm committing to this. Where Sorokin kind of stepped back a little bit, maybe expecting another pass. Where the NHL game compared to Europe, it's a lot more north-south.
Yeah.
So they're going to get pucks to the net because things are tight, and they're just going to, and NHL guys are good shooters, so they can pick a corner. You got to just eliminate the opportunity. So he may have just been shell shocked. I mean, he had 30 minutes to kind of get ready there,
not even
or less. So I think, to his credit, he played okay. Probably a lot of butterflies. Didn't expect it. Not prepared.
Yeah.
Excuse here. But I think he comes back, and I'm not worried about it. How do you feel?
No. Listen, I'm not worried about it either. Plenty of people are. I'm not. I know you're not. Plenty of people, I saw tweets and comments of, can we get Grice back? I thought this guy was supposed to be polished, this, that, and the other thing. Guys, relax. He's a rookie. He's a prospect. He's, yes, the 1B or the backup. It's not really quite clear yet, but he's the backup. We went through the list of reasons for why he wasn't prepared for this game. He's got a little bit of work to do to his game, but nothing major in my opinion. He just needs to learn how to play further up in his crease. A lot of those goals that he gave up in the Ranger game were because he was too far back. If he attacks the puck a little more, then sit back and wait for it and try to make a save based on his speed.
Yeah, reactionary save instead of positional save.
He'll figure it out. I don't.
Well, think about this too. Shesterkin, who Sorokin and Shesterkin are being compared. At least he would he have 14 games last season or something, under 20 games, and then he didn't get to. I don't think he played very much in the bubble, but had some NHL experience. The Islanders still put up 4 goals on him 2 nights before.
Right, and I don't see anybody.
I don't think Ranger fans were like, "Oh my God, Shesterkin, this guy, blah blah." Georgiev right now, as we speak, on Tuesday night, the Devils have 4 goals on Georgiev.
There it is.
It was almost 5, but there was an offside.
Georgiev historically, I saw. Somebody texted me another Jack Hughes goal. Georgiev historically plays well against the Rangers. I mean, against the Islanders anyway. So
really, really good,
really
which is scary.
Yeah,
I had he can bounce back, or the team bounces back in front of him.
Yeah,
the Islanders were not prepared to weather that storm. That was Bush League. I can't believe that they don't know how to. They came out and they thought it was going to be a bright sunny day and there was a hurricane.
Yeah,
and they didn't batten down the hatches. I think that's what I put in my article. They just walked outside without a raincoat and it was
sure,
torrential downpour.
Yeah, so Georgiev historically is very good against the Islanders. I had a feeling that game was going to go not the way it did, but in the Rangers' favor because of Georgiev's play. But bottom line here, don't worry about Sorokin. He's not a godsend. He's going to be great. He's going to be a very good goaltender. I don't think Pierre Greco and Mitch Korn are going to sit back and be like, no big deal. They're going to work with him, and they're the goalie gurus. They're known to be the best around the league at coaching a goaltender. There's not anything to be worried about here. It was the first start of his NHL career. Let's give him a pass.
He's got some time in between them. From Saturday to presumably one of the back-to-back games against the Flyers this weekend.
Maybe.
Is it back-to-back?
Yeah, Saturday, Sunday.
All right. I suspect, then the Islanders schedule probably picks up next week quite a bit.
Yeah, it does. It gets a little more. This is the most time between games that the Islanders will have for the rest of the year.
So I imagine that he gets one of these games.
I think that he'll get one of the Philly games. I think Varlamov will probably play the next 2, and then Sunday we'll see Sorokin.
Yeah, and then he comes back, and then they play 2 games in 3 days against the Sabres.
Yeah,
and then it kind of snowballs like from every 2 days for quite some time. So you might see Sorokin in one of those games.
Yeah,
in early February as well. You don't want him to not play at all, but they are going to ease him in.
Yeah.
I think maybe the Devils game would have been better to see, so maybe he plays Thursday, Sunday, so that he gets the jitters out against somebody like the Devils instead of the Rangers who have really potent offense. That probably would have been a little bit better of a plan, I have to imagine. But we'll see. I'm not necessarily. I don't love the Islanders right now. To talk a little bit about this Bruins game, our next topic. I don't. I love this team, but I don't love the way that they're playing. I don't. I know it's early, but eventually, the short training camp and this and that, the excuse is going to run off. It's going to run out.
The Bruins game, the Islanders had a bad first period. I'll give you that. After, their defense got back to it, and it was a chess match from there. The Bruins essentially play the same style of defense as the Islanders.
Yeah, but was it a chess match, or is the Islanders' offense just shitty right now? I think it's that.
Well, yes, but
their defense wasn't particularly
but so
good.
are the Bruins. The Bruins have not scored an even strength goal yet this season.
I mean, yeah.
So
they weren't making. I think they weren't. Varlamov was very good.
Oh, he was outstanding.
The Bruins had their chances. That
Varlamov stole a period,
and I don't think the Islanders had that. They had 17 shots in the game.
I agree. No, I agree.
Like now, the Bruins only had 20 something, which is a testament to something different. But the Islanders, like the offense has always been a concern. They'll win that. Sure. They'll win 1-0 and be happy about it.
I agree.
And Islander fans will get aggravated that Sean Tierney or Dom Luszczyszyn's from the Athletic or whatever get pissed off.
Forget it.
Well, the fans get pissed off at the analytics community when they're like, yeah, the Islanders shouldn't have won that game. Like
right.
The stats, and that's not sustainable. And then they find a way to make it sustainable until it's not. Until it's game 6 of the Eastern Conference Final. So they're not wrong. It's just not right away. The analytics community, that is. It works until it doesn't, until they run into something where a team kind of suffocates them a little bit and they can't score goals. You're only going to win so many double overtime games on a 2-on-1 off a flub pass so many times. Like,
yeah, no, I know.
That's the way that they play. Now, against Washington, now they rolled over Florida. That wasn't even a contest. When you play actual playoff games against good teams and you play really, really suffocating hockey against Washington, and then you grind it out against Philly, that's the Islander team. That's a different game. That's a totally different team.
Right.
This kind of like very passive mistake. It's not mistakes. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's different. It seems like there's something going on, but maybe it's just early.
Here's the thing, right? And I said this the other night, right after the game. It's important to remember that the Islanders are going to continue to win with defense and quality goaltending. Peugeot gives them a boost from last season, right? They didn't have him for most of the year. So now insert him in the playoffs. Yes, it was a boost, but this season he's a boost to the offense. And you hope that the kids can find their offense, but they're not an offensive juggernaut. That doesn't mean that they're not going to win games. I've been saying this since Barry Trotz took over. They're not an offensive juggernaut. They're not going to be. They're not going to score 6 goals a game, 5-6 goals a game. It's not going to happen. They don't have firepower like that. Are they going to acquire it? I don't know. We'll talk about it then. Is Wahlstrom going to become one? We'll talk about it then. Bellows, maybe. We'll see. But it's not yet. Now, also understand that it's still early enough. It's still very early. They've only played 3 games. It's still early enough to say, well, there was a short training camp and no exhibition games. These guys need to find their game still. That's what the whole exhibition game process is about, finding their game, seeing what works. The third line is still not intact, right? Peugeot is there. He's going to stay there. But the wings, yeah, it's been Johnston and Bellows for the past couple of games, but they're getting 8 minutes each. The fourth line's getting more time than them.
Well, Peugeot's getting more time. Power play, penalty kill, he's getting time with the fourth line.
Peugeot led the team in time on ice last night.
Yeah, Martin isn't getting the time.
You're already seeing how Barry Trotz values Matt Martin much different than Lou Lamoriello. I will say that.
Yeah. And that's exactly what Staples said today in the Q&A.
Okay, there you go.
Verbatim. That's verbatim what he said. He was like, you just kind of see this disconnect. And I just glanced over it, so it's funny that I saw that exact line. But I thought that was interesting as well. I mean, I think at the end of the game or in certain situations, you want your 2 best face-off guys. And that's Cizikas, and that's not anything against Nelson necessarily, but it's you get your two best guys on the ice in certain situations in Cizikas and Peugeot, and that's just going to be good.
Yeah.
One guy gets tossed or whatever the deal is. You have two responsible guys out there, and Clutterbuck is never necessarily a liability. I wish, I think, that his hand injury, it's just looking in game one, outside of the pass from Barzell, you kind of saw him struggle a little bit. I think he's going to try to get more physical to make up for that. But he was an offensive, guy. Like, he was always capable of, sniping every once in a while.
He's always had a good shot.
I think what worries me, though, is this isn't. I understand your point, and I obviously know that. Kind of goes without saying. They're not an offensive juggernaut. My issue is that they're making mistakes. They're playing like shit
but
in the
who
offensive
isn't
zone
right now?
Well, when you come out in game one and you show, look, they connected on passes. They weren't turning the puck over. They played simple.
Yeah,
I didn't even notice. I didn't even necessarily, in some games when you watch Barzell, you're like, damn, dude had the puck half the game.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that in the Ranger game. It seemed like the puck was being distributed. He wasn't trying to do too much, something we saw Tavares do way too often when the team struggled years ago, where you just saw him try to wrangle that puck for too long and try to, because he just wanted to make the perfect pass or create an opportunity where, he's playing with, nobody's necessarily. He was making them AHL players. I didn't notice that in Barzell. Against the Rangers and then even against the Bruins on Monday night, you kind of saw guys trying to do too much or just there was like, I don't understand what they were trying to do. And that's kind of my problem. Like, they just looked bad. It wasn't like, they weren't offensively strong. It was, even in the neutral zone, they couldn't, like I said, they couldn't even string passes. This is outside of the first period. They played like shit.
There's no other way to look at it other than they need to find the chemistry. They haven't found it yet because there hasn't been too much time. There's been inconsistency throughout the whole lineup.
When do we? And because I've been thinking about this question anyway. I don't really have an answer. I think my question is, when does it wear off? Like, when is it game 10? Is it game 15 where we're like, all right, what we got is what we got? This is the team.
That's interesting that you said that. I was listening to this was a couple weeks ago now. I believe it was Ray Ferraro saying this. He had a couple of very good points about, the upcoming season. And one of them was, what is gameplay going to be like? And he's like, it could be 10, 15 games before you don't see sloppy play. For all teams, no exhibition games, no training camp or a short training camp.
So this isn't Islanders inconsistency. You think it's just sloppy?
I think
we're gonna revert. We're gonna go back to this moment on this day. I'm gonna try to do my best to remember this, because I think my issue going into this season with this team was inconsistency. When does that fire burn out? When does the kindling kind of go?
I don't know.
Away?
It's been 2 years. It still hasn't happened.
I urge you to look at the 1920 season where they start off strong, they dip, and they're a regular team, and then they were playing like absolute garbage, injuries or not.
There's different factors.
I'm just saying that it's inconsistent. And even in the bubble, we saw it. They came out really strong, and then they had opportunities to finish Philly, and that series was a little up and down. The Lightning, I think they were just overwhelmed. I don't know that you can chalk it up to more than that. That's a seasoned veteran team that's been kind of building to that moment for a long time. And I don't know that, people were surprised they got to the Eastern Conference Final. I don't know. I don't even want to know what they would have said if the Islanders actually made it to against Dallas. That would have been, geez. But I think I said this, and I even think you agreed with it. One of the things that they needed to prove this season was that they could be consistent. What they've shown so far is that they still need to do that.
I agree. I just think it's going to take time. That's all it is.
I think what kind of is maybe floating over all of this is they don't have that much time.
Right. Well, that was going to be my next thought. In a truncated season, I get that it's when is that going to come, and I get that. I say you have to give it another week before you can start saying, okay, what's going on here?
Now, and they're going to lose games. They're
Sure.
going to win those types of games 1-0 against teams like the Bruins.
Yep.
I think if they're going to be in this particular season, is I know it's 56 games and it's this and it's that, but I think this will be telling about the actual trajectory of the team, because you're going against the best of the best. If Buffalo is actually playing half decent this season, they're not the dumpster fire so far, although they tend to do this. They play really well in the beginning of the season and then fall off a cliff. If the Devils are actually better, this division, it'll be very telling for the future of this team if they make the playoffs this year. Now, two very good teams are going to miss, but if the Islanders are truly on an upward trajectory, now like you said, the last 2 years they're building. They're kind of. I'm not going to sit here and pretend they're the Tampa Bay Lightning, but the Lightning and a lot of teams that kind of eventually go on to win a Stanley Cup, they go through the trials and tribulations. They lose heartbreaking series. They make it really far. They miss the playoffs the next year. They come back and they play better. If they're truly on that, this is going to be really telling for the future if they make the playoffs this year. And especially like I said, if Buffalo and the Devils are playing better than expected, there's even more of an opportunity to make the playoffs, because that means everybody's going to be losing games.
Yeah.
There's points being left on the table. The window actually opens. You can lose games against the Bruins and the Rangers, but then you got to make sure you're winning those other games. You got to make sure that they're also going to lose games. And if there's better teams in this division, or maybe Pittsburgh falls off. Every team's an injury away, so I don't want to say that. But
that's true.
Maybe Pittsburgh's aging. It's hard to think about Crosby and so is Washington, although they're 4-4 right now in the third period. So goalie's not looking great, but the offense is there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors here, and if the Islanders are really going to step into being one of those teams and being a legitimate contender every year, having beaten Pittsburgh pretty handily one season, Washington pretty handily, grinded it out against Philly.
Yeah.
This is the year to kind of do it. So if they really are, they don't have that much time. I don't want to sit here and wait until be like, oh look, the power play clicked. Fantastic. The penalty kill's been good, but I don't want to wait.
Been very good.
Oh great, they finally found a third line that gels. It's Komarov, Dowd, Cole, and Hosang, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like I don't want them to just keep like.
I get it. I do.
Spinning this revolving door of shit and just pretending.
There's like 53 games left. You got to give it at least another week.
I feel like once they get down on themselves, like in that Ranger game, that's it.
No, I don't think so. I don't.
What did we see?
I think that game was just from the get-go. It was just there was no hope. Varlamov goes down in warm-ups. That's it. The whole mojo is thrown. Varlamov.
I hope you're right.
If Varlamov plays that game, I think they win. I think they win 3-1. I think the whole mojo of the team. Clutterbuck was probably down on himself. The chemistry wasn't there for the fourth line. Nobody was clicking in that game. I think the whole mojo was thrown off from the get-go.
I hope you're right.
Once Varlamov went down, it's
just concerning. I mean, I think the positives, and let's do that a little bit, because I don't want to just kind of talk about the bad stuff. I really, really like Dobson so far.
Oh yeah, I think
against the Rangers he struggled obviously, but there were, especially in that first game, and even against the Bruins on Monday, I like his vision. He's seeing the ice really well. They're trusting. Trotz is just throwing him on the power play.
He has to.
I think that's good, and he's got some really good looks. And I think, especially when he's out there, I don't know how often he's actually out there with Barzal, and it might just be on the power play. I really don't know. I haven't tracked if they're both on the ice at the same time. I think eventually that's going to work out. That creativity is going to match up, and you're going to see it really work, because Barzal loves to go to the point. Dobson has the vision to get it back to him, or the wherewithal to make a good play, and God, that's gonna be a good connection. It
is. Dobson had a few flubs defensively, but offensively, he's looking real good. He's looking real confident. the defensive flubs, they'll work themselves out. He didn't play consistently last year. He got 34 games sporadically, and he needs to, like the rest of the team, just get some time under his belt. And he's going to be, as just like I said with Sorokin, he's going to be fine. He might be better than fine. He might be great. And I think that he just needs to figure out his game a little bit more in his own end.
I mean, the two of them,
offensively, he's doing really well. That game, that first game against the Rangers, he almost created a very good chance on goal with a no-look pass cross ice that almost set up a goal. I think on the receiving end, it might have been Beauvillier. He might have just missed the puck.
Yeah, they were. Maybe it was Eberle or something. I remember that was one of the looks that I liked. It was like seam pass from the point, kind of down to from the right point down to the left point. I love that look. He was confident. Great. He got that puck through. I think with Dobson and Sorokin, kind of all the mistakes that they made in that Ranger game. You know what? Get them all out in one game. And rather you make a million mistakes. 10-0 is still 10-0. It's still one loss.
There you go.
Doesn't matter. You can get run up. It doesn't matter. I'd rather them kind of just get it out of their system in one game and learn from it, and butterflies, whatever excuse here kind of thing. Yeah. And then kind of come back and have an opportunity to redeem yourself. They have to have a short memory this season.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are going to have games on, especially maybe on back-to-backs. You hope not, that they just kind of blow it.
Yeah,
something goes wrong, and whatever the case is, they hit a snowstorm. Their plane gets in late. You can write the story ahead of time and kind of have it in the queue at some point. So,
as our good friend Joe Pantorno would say, take it on the chin, burn the tape, move on.
Yeah.
So, and that's exactly what they did with the Ranger game. It might have taken a little bit of time into the first period against the Bruins game, but they moved on. They got another win. They're 2-1 right now. Let's pump the brakes on everybody. Freak out. Let's just wait. They're 2-1.
I need some receipts. I think I'm gonna be hard on them this season.
Because
they're good, right? Like we can kind of play good cop, bad cop there.
They're gonna be 15-1, and you're gonna be like, yeah, but they were all 1-goal games, but they won 15 games.
I just don't want I think what I don't like about that is I don't want to see them win 3 games in a row like they did against the Bruins.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
You kind of need to see. Look, it's not like they won 1-0 and they were just swarming them, and which you can't do every game. Every team is going to come out different strategy. They're going to especially right now when you're playing these guys night after night, you're going to learn a lot about these teams, not just about tape, which I doubt they're going to do as the season goes on. You're just going to know, okay, this is what teams are doing. Yeah. The coach is going to keep up on it. They're going to put in the strategy, and that's just where it's going to go. Every once in a while, a team's going to have your number.
That's true.
Or something.
The Bruins have had the Islanders' number for the past, I don't know, 8 years.
Yeah, something like that. I think the last win was at home win was 2013.
Yeah,
I said on the broadcast. I think it's just a matter of lose a game. No one is saying they can't lose a game. Lose it by playing at least half decent.
Right.
And I think that's my problem is when they lose, oh boy, do they lose.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look good. And that's kind of my problem. And then for them, it very easily snowballs. And that's where they don't have the luxury of some of that time or the season pausing out of absolutely nowhere. So even if they're 12-3 or what I do, Jesus, I would do a backflip. They're 12-3 because that would be amazing. If they're
5-4,
10-4.
Okay.
Not ridiculous, right? You're playing so many games, and it's not a ridiculous thing. Maybe discounting shootout wins if that even gets that. I would really want to dissect that. Maybe the team's first 12 to 15 games and say, what did this chunk tell us? Have they been consistent? Are they winning 3 games in a row? And I don't want to say dominating, but like they're playing really well. They're playing good games. And even then that loss, they played a good game. They outshot them. Goalie stood on their head. The issue is I don't know if that's the case, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. It didn't happen yet. I'll sit back and wait for it.
So I think a big factor in all of this, it remains on the third line. Ross Johnston is just not it. Plain and simple, he's not it. He's a real solid guy in limited minutes. He could be a great fourth liner, but he is not a third line player. And let me no,
I
he's
want
not,
him to be.
He's not.
I
a
really
third,
want him
he's
to
not,
be.
but he's not.
But
He shouldn't
I
be.
agree.
He shouldn't be on the ice with Martin and Clutterbuck. It should be Johnston and Martin, or Clutterbuck and Martin, or Johnston and Clutterbuck. It shouldn't be all three.
I did. Did we talk about this last week? That maybe I think if maybe Clutterbuck doesn't come back next year for some reason,
Yes.
Johnson would actually not be a bad, because he does have that offensive kind of prowess that Clutterbuck does have. So maybe he's a replacement for Martin or Clutterbuck.
Yes,
one way or another. I don't know if either of them last. Then the length. Does Ross have another year left after this year?
I think he has one.
Martin's got 3 more after this, and then Clutterbuck's got at least one if he comes out of the season alive.
Right.
Just because I think he's just he's gonna throw his body at absolutely everything.
He had 7 hits yesterday.
I think what worries me. So sorry, not Ross Johnson. We saw Dal Cole on that line a little bit. We might Tuesday in practice.
Yeah.
And you tweeted about that. What kind of combination, save for swapping Bellows and Wahlstrom? It seems like that spot is for one of them. They're going to be the ones interchanged. You're not, I don't think anyway, you're going to see Komarov and Dal Cole, for instance, with Pajot in that third line. I have a hard time believing that that's going to be the case. So that one side is saved for the kids, which is good, right? Get them eased in to, a certain degree. Maybe this weekend, Wahlstrom gets his shot. Maybe Thursday, Sunday, you see Wahlstrom or something. But what about that other side?
Dal Cole is very close to being back. And if he can be, like we said last week, just that guy who gets his job done, gets the puck out of the defensive zone,
not a liability,
gets it to Pajot. Pajot gets it into the offensive zone. If he can just do his job, it might lead to more opportunities in the offensive zone. Maybe Bellows can bury a puck. Maybe Wahlstrom can bury a puck. I think Staple did say, if Bellows comes out, if Johnson comes out, Bellows might come with him to give Komarov or Dal Cole and Wahlstrom an opportunity just to see what they got. You're probably not going to see Bellows and Wahlstrom together, at least not until
they get to prove something.
Yeah,
they both kind of have to do it where they're the option.
Bellows has been real solid. His first game, he threw 8 hits. That was very telling to me that he was comfortable being out there. He looks good. He's drawing penalties. He doesn't look out of place out there. He's one of the best sayings is if you don't notice him out there, then that's not necessarily a bad thing.
I want to see the puck on a stick a little more.
And I
don't love that it's not there, and because I know he wants to shoot that puck, and I did see a couple opportunities where he just let it go.
Right. Well, that's the thing.
Not very many.
He needs a bit of a looser leash, in my opinion. Although he looks real good and he's making the most out of his minutes, he's only getting 8. So he needs more of an opportunity to make something happen out there.
Is it that, or again, is it like Komarov or Dal Cole? Just
he's also playing with Ross Johnston on the other
right,
side.
And that's Pajot can't just carry it, so someone's got to get the puck to Pajot to then get it over to Bellows or create something. That third line has just created absolutely nothing so far this season. Even in the 5-0, the 4-0 win. I think it was, I want to see the puck on his stick a little bit more, or being quickly released for a shot.
And you said the third line isn't creating anything. Neither is the second line. And this is, kind of going back to
Bevillier's been a ghost.
I mean, Nelson scored the first goal of the year and then nothing since.
I think he's, I seeing him make like some plays at least.
Bailey had a really nice feed to Beauvillier in the Boston game that led to a semi breakaway. And I had thought that if, for half a second that, it was going on, that if Beauvillier buried that was going to be it. They were going to, that was their coming out party. But Rask makes a nice save, but it was a really nice pass by Josh Bailey.
The rest of the game, he made so many bad passes though, and it just didn't even make up for it for me. I was like, yeah, great, nice pass, but doesn't excuse the lollipop bullshit that you've been tossing out there the last whatever.
They need to find their mojo. It's just a lot of things still need to happen. That left wing spot on line 3 needs to be filled by someone consistent. And in my opinion, I do think it's going to be Dow Cole. I don't, like we said last week, I don't dislike that. I think he'll be fine. I think he's a serviceable third line player who knows his role and can allow the other 2 line mates to kind of get, do their thing. I think it will come to form. Dow Cole is coming back soon. Although, interestingly, as we're talking about this, I see a tweet. The Islanders assigned Kiefer Bellows to the taxi squad today and also recalled Dmytro Timashov from the AHL back up to the taxi squad. So I don't know if these are just paper transactions. Something could be, in the works here as far as a change in the lineup. Maybe Wahlstrom gets his shot against the Devils on what is Thursday. We'll see.
Now there is, I do, because I saved. I try to save things that I know that I couldn't explain on my own. And there was, damn it, of course I say it out loud and I'm not going to be able to find it. But it was about saving money from things on the taxi squad. I want to say, I can't even remember. Well, like, you're going to kind of see that from time to time. This seems a little bit different than, some of the other teams kind of moving things around a little bit just to kind of like save $7,000 because they get that cap space back at the trade deadline or whatever the case is. So I would keep that in mind moving forward, things like that. But this does seem a little bit different, so I'm interested to see how that all shakes out.
Yeah, as we know, Timashov signed a 1-year deal officially. The only player not under contract with the Islanders right now is Thomas Kuhnagel. Everyone else is accounted for. But let's end the show on a positive note here. We're not sure what the third line might look like tomorrow. We're not sure, what direction the Islanders will be going in for the rest of the season. Although I'm for certain not going to count them out of anything because everybody has been doing that for the past 2 years. And once again, they just shut the door on that. But let's end the show on a positive note. Varlamov is locked in. 2 starts, 2 shutouts. He's looked fantastic. And this is great for the Islanders. And this is great for Ilya Sorokin. Because to be able to watch what Varlamov is doing and learn from and partner with him, I think that, again, forget last performance by Sorokin. You're going to see some really strong starts from him because he's going to want to match that gameplay and work his way into the starting conversation.
I think I'm trying to decide does it take pressure off of Sorokin, knowing that your partner is winning his fair share of the games?
Yes.
Or does it put more pressure on you because he's playing well, now I gotta play well. I gotta make sure I'm it's a shortened season. We got any points matter. I can't let off the gas just because my partner is racking up the wins. I feel like it's kind of a 50-50 situation here.
I think that it takes pressure off of him. He's seeing what's going on here, and it's going to be likely that Varlamov gets the majority of starts. I think Staples said something today like he'll probably get 35 this year. That's a good number. It takes pressure off of him because he's not relied on to carry any workload.
You mean Varlamov's going to get 34?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Varlamov will get about 35 starts. That takes pressure off of Sorokin because it's not a 50-50 split. He'll likely play the Devils, Buffalo. He'll get his reps. I think it takes pressure off of him. He's got plenty of, in-game action to watch from the bench. He gets to see the way Varlamov cuts angles and moves side to side, just the way he plays his game. I think it's great for him. I think Varlamov's success is not only great for the Islanders, it's great for Sorokin and his development.
Yeah, I think, being able to watch that firsthand, and Varlamov has looked very calm, cool, and collected, to just use that cliche.
Extremely.
I haven't seen him kind of make any exaggerated movements. He's not flailing around out there. He's making the saves. He's not, even when there's like traffic in front and things kind of collapsing on top of him.
Yeah.
He seems to be just like holding his ground, very steady.
Yeah.
It's definitely what the Islanders know at this point. They played, the season only did just end for them not very long ago. They consider themselves lucky that they didn't have that much time. In a certain respect, they didn't have that much time in between the end of last season and the beginning of this season for them. They know what they have in him. I think that gives them confidence. I just hope that when Sorokin does get in there, and I know they were disappointed. Andrew Lee said it, and I think a couple other guys said, he didn't deserve what we did. We didn't play well in front of him. Trotz said that they hung Sorokin out to dry.
Yeah.
But true. That, they do need to come back and play better. And, again, I kind of struggle with that because, all right, they played that game. They kind of laid an egg against, they put up the biggest blue line deli bagel I've ever seen in that that Ranger game.
I got to send that clip to Donald.
Send the clip to Don and send him an invoice too. But I think knowing what happened the day before, and then to just kind of rely on your goalie again to keep you in a game against the Bruins.
Yeah.
That worries me, right? It's not like that Bruins game is in a vacuum, like, okay, this is early in the season and they're kind of, but no, they played like absolute dog shit right before that. Not, again, 2 days before that, let their goalie out to dry. They should feel terrible. They should feel like the Rangers the night before. They should come out, whether that was against the Rangers or not, come out, break down the barn doors and go for it. Instead, they do the same. They play another shitty period of hockey and rely on their goalie to keep him in it. And it's just not sustainable. If that's how this season's going to go, again, it's early, blah, blah, blah. Right now, I love the crest, and I'm kind of stealing this from Dangle because he had a very similar kind of rant. But I love the crest, but they're not. I don't love what they're doing. They should be better than this. They're just not doing it.
I said let's end the show on a positive note.
It's very good that Varlamov is locked in, but the fact that he's like keeping things
afloat,
literally at zero, right? You look at their goal differential, straight up zero. In 3 games, good, fine. I know I'll kind of deal with that, but they need to do more than just kind of rely on this guy. But yeah, super happy that he's doing well. It's an incredible streak. If he gets to start on Thursday, it's something that, keeps positive. I hope that it doesn't deflate him if, you're going to get scored on eventually. He's a professional. Imagine it'll be fine. Hopefully they can just kind of run over the Devils and get their confidence back and get a little bit of a streak going and head into Philadelphia and just have a good weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. Philadelphia is not looking, quite like the Philadelphia we saw in the playoffs right now. But again, early in the year. So I don't think it's just the Islanders. I think it's, it's going around. It's everybody's got the itis a little bit and it's all right. It's okay. Let's listen. That's about it for this week. Let's hope for a more positive Mr. Zella next week because right now he's not loving it. But
three games in 4 days. It's an opportunity for them to get some momentum. And then it's a busy schedule. So I think they have my issue is one way or another they're going to find momentum. It's either going to be win 1, lose 2, or it's going to be win 2 or 3 and lose 1. That's a very different February.
They're going to have short memories, and they're going to have to just press on. That's all they could do.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I think the third line gelling and being the fact that they can't just roll out the 4 lines like Trotz likes to do is a little bit of an issue. So once they kind of get that solidified, and as we had breaking news on the show here, more kind of confusion. We discussed like, oh, here are the guys that can be on the third line, and then it's like, oh yeah, Timashov exists. He's coming out of the woodwork. So congratulations, another guy. But that might be good. I don't know. I think he provides a different experience.
Sure.
Maybe they need that extra little flair. I wouldn't kill him to have a little Russian flair.
No.
On the O instead of just between the pipes. So
yeah, I agree.
I don't know what on God's green earth that third line looks like with Timashov. I don't know if that's Wallstrom, Peugeot, Timashov, or what. I can't imagine Trotz is like,
the
oh yeah, two young
conspiracies.
guys that don't have any experience. Let's just throw them both out at the same time. I have to imagine it's a Komarov, Timashov, a lot of going on.
Yeah.
Hopefully translates into events, but we'll see.
I can't believe you just did that. Oh, that's about it. That's it. We're ending right there. Thank you to everybody for listening right now. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to the show. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Nassauman Hockey and find our work at The Hockey Writers. You can always support the show by picking up some NHP merch and donating through our Patreon. Our newsletter is out every Friday. We're also planning some bonus episodes and additional content, so sign up and stay up to date with all of that. And everybody, until next time, let's go Islanders.